Hello everybody, welcome back, and thank you for being here. In this video, I would like to share another amazing sign with you, hoping this will enlighten you all, and knowing that we don't die, and that our children will always be with us. They know our pain, and will try in every way to get our attention. However, it's very important we are open to these divine interventions. It's important to remember we will never be disconnected, because love bridges both worlds. One Sunday morning, about a month after Eliana had passed, my husband Dan made breakfast for us all. When Eliana was here, she loved pancakes. So Dan decided to make us pancakes because it was her favorite breakfast food. Of course, it took a lot of strength for Dan. I remember this huge cloud of grief surrounding us that morning, and it took every bit of energy for us to get through the hours of the day without Eliana. But somehow, and from somewhere, I felt the strength to continue. I remember that morning I was walking around trying to make sense out of my grief-stricken self, and it all seemed like one long nightmare. All these mixed emotions and feelings were starting to resurface, especially the stage of shock. I remember distinctly telling Dan that I had never felt so numb in my life, and I was walking around like a zombie. I kept thinking, I can't believe Eliana isn't here. I can't believe it. As Dan was making breakfast and the kids were playing in the living room, I decided to go upstairs to Eliana's bedroom. I sat on her bedroom floor looking over her schoolwork and looking at her Barbie dolls she loved playing with. I then held her favorite purple sweatshirt close to my chest. I remember saying, Eliana, I wish you were here. We miss you. And why did you have to leave us so soon? I could feel my emotions turn to anger and shouted, Why? Why? Why did you have to leave us? I don't understand it. The room felt very silent, and I sensed emptiness. I wanted her back, and the pain was so strong. I felt that my heart was broken into little tiny pieces. After several minutes, my voice then began to soften, and through my tears, I said, I wish you were here with us. I feel so sad and lonely without you. My heart ached desperately for her. It felt so painful. All these emotions running through me. I cannot begin to describe how grief-stricken I had become. Some time later, Dan came upstairs and placed his hand on my shoulder to tell me breakfast was ready. I told him about how numb I had been feeling and asked how in the world we were going to get through this. Of course, he felt the same way as I felt, and he wasn't able to say much at all either. What truly is there to say when both parents have lost a child? Although we knew we had both Daniel and Jessica to keep us going. In fact, he did mention this to me. Saying these few words must have given him tremendous strength and courage, and I know looking back, he was trying to help me in his own special way, whilst also feeling the absolute pain and sadness of losing his daughter. After breakfast, Jessica decided to go to her room and lay down because her tummy hurt, and Daniel went into the living room to play with his army figures. Dan and I were still sat at the table in a devastated silence when all of a sudden we heard the sound of a trumpet playing. Eliana always liked to play the trumpet. We both immediately looked at one another in absolute astonishment. Our mouths literally dropped open. I then whispered to Dan, It's Eliana! It's Eliana! I then put my hand to my mouth in disbelief. Oh, my word, it's her, it's her. It sounded so far away, yet so near. We heard the trumpet very clearly, as if she was practicing. She wasn't playing a particular song, but just practicing some notes. I hurriedly got up from the table and went to ask Daniel if he could hear anything. I said, "Daniel, can you hear the sound of the trumpet?" He listened briefly and told me he could not hear a thing. And actually, I couldn't hear a thing either in the living room. But as soon as I came back into the kitchen, I could hear her play just a few seconds more, and then the sound stopped. I then rushed upstairs to Jessica's room to ask her if she had heard anything. I said, "Jessica, did you hear the trumpet?" She said she'd heard nothing, and then she quickly placed the comforter over her head. I didn't mean to scare Jessica, and I understand that being only 7, she was unable to process the fact that her sister was in heaven, yet back here playing the trumpet. In fact, even for adults, this was difficult to comprehend too. Yet it was a very real indeed. This sign was able to lift my heavy heart just a little. I strongly believe to this day that this was a sign from our dear daughter, a musical sign that was really meant only for her parents, Dan and I. She could no longer talk to us. However, just playing a few notes gave us the reassurance that she's still around us in spirit. It was a small but so vital sign. Signs like these give us hope and comfort to let us know that life goes on. I spoke about this wonderful sign to so many of my friends and family at the time. They were absolutely amazed. This sign uplifted and enlightened them also. It goes to show, or it proves, that we're never apart from our children and that we'll always be connected. This was yet another divine intervention from Eliana, helping to give us the strength and reassurance we needed to continue on and to know that there is an afterlife. Thank you for listening, and God bless.